Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dissecting Dance, Kicking It with Rand podcast, the podcast that opens up discussions about topics in dance. The goal of this podcast is to allow dancers and non dancers alike to think about dance from new perspectives, as well as leaving room for discussion. Enjoy the show! Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dissecting Dance, Kicking It with Rand podcast. Um, Great, a fun little episode. Yay. Um, Courtney, say hi.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. You have, you're really cool. There's a lot of cool things around. Like but we'll get into that. We'll get into that. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Courtney McCarthy. I am an anti-diet fitness instructor and body image coach. And I am the founder of Loyobo, which stands for Love Your Body, an online community for women who are sick of trying to make themselves smaller. And what relates me to the dance podcast is I was a Zumba instructor for almost 10 years, and I now teach what I call Dance It Out, which is a dance based fitness workout.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you. Um, yeah, so I looked into your, like when you're looking into like people, like I did look into
Yep.
your business and like you're definitely doing it right. You have a
Oh,
perfect
thank you.
five-star review on Google. And I'm just so, I think because in the dance community, there's such an emphasis on having to look a certain way in order to have opportunities, basically. So, um, that's why like when I saw like your page too, I was like, oh yes, this is gonna be good. Like,
Well,
I,
thank you. Yeah, it's an important conversation, that's for
mhm,
sure. Is that there is, and I've felt it both. I would say both as a dance instructor, but also
mhm,
especially as a fitness instructor, that pressure to look a certain way and to
yeah,
have. I think there's that expression that your body is almost like your calling card.
hmm,
And so figuring out how to exist in a larger body and still uh, be confident in who I am and what I bring to the table and my value. So, and that's
hmm.
also what I teach women every day with my clients too.
Awesome. So, what kind of what is like you said that you were like a dance instructor.
Mhm.
What kind of dance did you teach?
So Zumba is what I taught. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So
nice.
a little bit of everything is what I.
Just a little bit of mix and mash.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, what is Zumba?
Yeah. So Zumba is a Latin aerobic dance based workout. So now what I teach, Dance It Out, is it's also a dance based workout, but now the genres are a little bit more expansive
Hmm,
and not necessarily the Latin emphasis. And it's really just about moving your body. I
hmm.
try to keep the choreography really, really simple. And it's just about experiencing the joy of dance.
Absolutely, because that's what dance is about. I think
Exactly.
that in the industry, we tend to forget at times that the reason why dance is because it makes you happy. It's supposed to bring you joy.
Yeah, it's an
You're not, sup-
expression of
you're not,
life too.
yeah, absolutely. And moving your body is a way to express yourself. You're not, as humans, we're not biologically supposed to feel under pressure when dancing or moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, for many adults, I think, especially if you loved dance as a kid or you grew
Mhm,
up taking dance lessons and you maybe knew that it wasn't a professional path for you, it wasn't something that you wanted to do to
mhm.
earn your living. There's almost like a stage where you're trying to discover the role of dance
Right.
and how it fits into your life. And that's something that I love. Um, bringing it, marrying it with the fitness component is, I think that it finds a nice little home where it's not about getting it right and it's not about worrying about your form or your technique. It's just about moving your body and getting that exercise in as well.
Absolutely. So I'm very intrigued by like all like I have a lot of questions.
Yeah,
So
let's anything. I'm an open book, so dive in.
perfect. Uh so so I'm so I'm I guess because I'm like from the culture of like working out to maintain a certain body type or get to a certain body type. What kinds of things do you kind of like discuss with the people you're like whether it would be like participants in your classes or other faculty that are working with you? What
Mhm.
kind of things do you talk about or do in class to make sure that the emphasis is very clearly about body positivity?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things we talk about is goals, defining your
Hmm.
goals of what movement can look like outside of weight loss. So that can be functional based goals where we're talking about, okay, what can't you do in your life that you want to be able to
Hmm.
do? And that could be getting up and down off the floor. It could be climbing the stairs up to your apartment without getting out of breath.
Hmm.
And then we can have like the play-based goals too, which is what do you want to achieve? What are some big dreams that you want to go after that
Hmm.
make you excited? That could be like doing your first 5K, or it could be nailing a specific genre of dance or a specific kind of move, or what have you.
Hmm.
So we talk a lot about that as is other ways that you can measure success and progress when it comes to your body and movement
Hmm.
and feeling stronger and feeling good. But the I love the way that you phrase the question too, is how do we do it in class? And a big part of that is both myself and the other instructors on my team is we're very mindful of language, of even the kinds of encouragement we're providing our students. So I'm often, in the dance format, I'm often talking about. I'll even encourage people to close their eyes as they dance,
Hmm.
to really not worry about what they look like, to just focus on how it feels. We provide a lot of encouragement to listen to their body. So that can mean, not worrying about giving 100% on any given day. So, you can show up and just keep your feet planted and just move your arms a little bit, flail
Hmm.
around a little bit, and that still counts. And really letting it be what they need it to be in that moment. So those are two of the ways. So both our encouragement is really making sure we're encouraging people not to necessarily, you know, work hard at all costs
Hmm.
and burn those calories, but we're really focused on, okay, how does it feel? How does your body feel? How, if we're pushing ourselves and we're challenging ourselves, we're doing that because we want to feel stronger, because we want to work
Hmm.
towards those goals, not to punish our body or to push through any sort of pain or discomfort.
Right. And that's extremely important, especially like as a mover in general, is that it's really like you've got to listen to your body because if you don't, that's how injuries happen. And
Yeah.
that's just that's the way that it works. I had a question, then I lost it. It just
That's
um,
okay.
I-
Well, and especially when we think of pushing past it,
yeah.
um, as adults, there's so much going on in life where, you know, you have new stressors, you have
Hmm.
changes in your life, whether it's illness, whether it's moving or a new job or what have you,
Right.
where your tank is being emptied and you do have other priorities. And for most of us, the goal is to be consistent, to find a way that movement and exercise doesn't have to feel so stressful all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And in order to do that and to take some of that shame and guilt and pressure out of it, it is giving yourself that permission that your workouts can look different day to day, week to week, month to month. The way you dance can look different class to class. And that doesn't impact how you define success and how whether or
Hmm.
not you feel successful. Oftentimes I give people permission. I'm like, it's just about showing up. Like that's the first that's the first hurdle. Is like
Hmm.
once you've shown up, you've already won. And so anything else from there is just gravy on top. And most of the time when we especially when we talk about motivation, is motivation is an action. So even if you don't feel like it initially, if you are able to get yourself to show up often, that's when the motivation comes and when you actually will begin to feel that excitement that we often associate with feeling motivated.
Gotcha. That's a great answer.
Mhm.
So
Thank you.
relating to that kind of like engagement, just showing up like mentality, which I do, which by the way I agree with. when it came out like 2 seconds ago, I thought it sounded a little condescending, so I just wanted to correct
That's
that.
okay. That's
Uh,
okay.
um, yeah, so with that like showing up matters sort of mentality, that's what I was getting at. Does your does your studio do like virtual classes? I think I saw something about that on there.
Yeah, so we're primarily virtual classes now. So even we allow cameras off,
Hmm.
or even with cameras on, we have people who show up in PJs or with kids in the
Yeah.
background or pets. I love seeing everybody's pets.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's there's no expectation of having your makeup done or wearing a specific kind of outfit, and
Hmm.
people take breaks too. It's like if you want to sit down for a little while, not dance it for a song or take a
Hmm.
break, that's totally fine too.
Nice. Yeah, and I think having it virtual is definitely beneficial in its own right. It's great for, like you said, like parents who have kids at home, like stay-at-home parents
Yeah.
who may not be able to travel to your studio to um, take classes. So
Yeah.
with it being virtual, what are some ways you do to like kind of keep your class engaged throughout?
Yeah, great question. The biggest part is community is really knowing each of the people in class and fostering those
Hmm.
connections between the participants as well. So I my people know I love to ask questions. I love to
Hmm.
start class,
Yeah.
saying how you doing, put it in the chat and getting them involved. And we also make sure, even from a movement perspective, one of the reasons I made my community the way that I did, and why I became so I was first a fitness instructor, and actually I first started teaching Zumba. That was how I began teaching.
Mhm.
Um, was I recognized that fitness and movement wasn't enough, that there's so many other emotions and things that need to be worked on and discussed when we talk about healing your relationship with your body and building confidence and feeling healthy and feeling good. So we provide a lot of space for that as well, whether it's in group coaching calls or hosting workshops. I love bringing in experts in other areas to just talk about what they know,
Mhm.
or even trying different kinds of dance to get people outside of their comfort zone. It's creating that safe space to be able to have those conversations and those connections, so that when you do show up to class, it's not just about doing the workout. It's about seeing friends and being seen and
Yeah.
being heard. And I make sure, when I'm teaching, that I'm talking to the people who are there. At the end of class, I often will say thank you to each of their names. Like I'll be like, thanks, Ren, for showing up,
Mhm.
and all those things.
Yeah.
So it's really about um, treating people as friends rather than just, a workout.
Right. Absolutely. And like the reason why like I even like brought up that question was because when I was um during COVID times,
Yeah.
that's what happened with a lot of classes.
Yeah.
I actually started college at like right in the midst of COVID,
Mm,
and our a lot of our classes were virtual, and it was very hard to like stay motivated
yeah.
throughout all that. So it's really nice that even through the virtual space, you're able to foster an incredibly like inclusive, positive, engaging community.
Yeah, it was definitely a concern because before COVID, I had an in-person studio and I did nothing online. I was just in person.
Yeah.
And I remember, we had such a strong community at the studio, and I remember being really afraid when we were forced to go online, as far as how being virtual would impact that community. And I think what I love even more that we weren't able to do in person is that we're doing really vulnerable things, right? Like even dancing can feel really vulnerable, especially if you are in a larger body, or if you don't have a dance background, or if you're struggling with insecurities or
Mhm.
feelings around how you look or whether or not you're good. And adding a layer to that of feeling confident enough to go into a studio, especially a studio that has like a ton of mirrors or something like that, can be a big hurdle. And now we get to connect with people in their safe space, in their homes, where they have control over their environment and they have control over whether or not the camera's on or off. So I feel like we're able to reach a lot more women, and
Yeah.
especially to reach more women where they're at, of like, it's okay if you don't want people to see you dance right away. It's okay if you don't want people to see you move. Being there with a camera off is totally fine, and we can still have that connection, and you can still really feel a part of the group. And then, when you're ready, if you're ready, that camera can always come on, but there's no pressure. So being able to do it at home and take away that kind of gym intimidation or studio intimidation has
Right.
really allowed us to reach more people.
That's awesome. You actually led into my next question really well. I was gonna ask, how like you already answered the first part, but did moving your business to online help your business? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like everything else, I feel like it came with a whole new set of challenges.
Hmm.
I had to learn how to operate a business online, and especially at first, there were some challenges when it came to community, um, and figuring out how to keep it the safe space and not have, clicks form or anything
Yeah.
like that. Um, but the longer that I do it, the more it feels like a really awesome option of I still love in-person things, and I
Hmm.
incorporate those in their own way in my business model now. That in-person connection, it can always be so powerful, but virtually, not only are we able to reach people where they're at and allow them to feel safe in their home, but it means that you see friendships being built, of
Yeah.
people in different continents, and that's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That
Hmm.
is that virtual, like, it's a great way of like connecting with others, and that is the one thing that came out of COVID that
Yes,
yes.
silver lining of a very
That's,
dark situation.
oh yeah, totally.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, so you said that you used to teach at like another studio. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, before I owned my own studio, I taught at lots of different facilities as well.
Okay. So what led you to starting your own fitness place?
Yeah.
Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know that I have an Instagram account now. My Instagram is dissecting dance with no punctuation, no spaces, no caps, none of that, just dissecting dance. You can follow me on Instagram there for the most recent updates on episode releases. Thanks everyone. Now back to the show.
Great question. So I started off teaching Zumba at a bunch of different big box gyms, so those really
Mhm.
large fitness facilities.
Mhm.
Um, and I found the longer that I taught there, the more it felt like a mismatch between what my clients were looking for and what I wanted to be able to do versus the culture of the gym. So a lot of women, we just talked about gym intimidation. A lot of women weren't interested in um, the kind of gym rat culture that existed in like the weight room or with the cardio machines or anything like that. And they often just came to my classes or to some of the other fitness classes. And when I was trying to do things like fostering community, like I'll never forget, I wanted to throw a little holiday party
Mhm.
where I was going to invite, some of the other instructors at the gym to come and like co-teach with me, and we were going to do a big dance class, and I was going to wear costumes and give out prizes all on my own dime. And I asked if I could put up some posters, and they're like, "Oh, no, 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 we don't put up posters like that." And I said, "Okay, no problem." But then I saw posters the next week go up that were from one of the trainers, and it was like pictures of bikini models,
Oh my gosh.
basically shaming women into like,
Sorry.
summer's close, like you want to fit into that bikini, like lose some weight. And I remember just being so angry of like, I have all these women coming to dance with me who have like that's not why they're there. Like women of all
Right.
ages and all backgrounds and all ethnicities, and they were coming to meet other women, to be part of that community, to move their body, to feel stronger, to feel, healthier. And I wanted to teach in a space where that was the core value, that
Hmm.
community, that safety, that vision of health that was so much more than what your body looked like. So I kept trying to find it at other studios and I couldn't. So when I couldn't find it, I said, okay, it looks like I got to try to make it myself and
Hmm.
prove that there was another way possible, another way that we could look at
Yeah.
movement.
Wow. I can't imagine how you feel because I'm already angry.
I
Like,
know, right? It's like
like
rage inspiring.
that is like rage core.
Yeah, yeah.
Gosh, I
Uh,
can't even. That's like, oh,
I
okay.
know. I didn't stay at that gym much longer,
No,
needless
that's
to
com
say.
no, that's completely understandable.
Mhm.
So I guess on like the business question kind of standpoint, like, did you have a decent time like finding people like at first? Like, what was your business journey?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it definitely took time. And I remember there were a lot of ups and downs where I would have nobody show up to class, and then sometimes only have class with one or two people
Hmm.
in the beginning. So it was a lot of, you know, feet on pavement, like distributing out flyers and teaching free classes in the community and
Hmm.
participating in different community events to just get your name out there and let people know what you're all about. So it was a process. I mean, I've been doing it now. What year are we? We're 2024. So I've been doing it now almost 8 years. So
Congrats.
it's thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so it's been a long journey, but I think become being an entrepreneur is an experience like no other, and it's a great way to learn about yourself fast.
Hmm.
And to learn about the world fast, and to learn, I always joke that it's kind of like getting a degree in psychology. You'll learn a lot about people.
Yep.
Um, but I don't think I'd
Yep.
change over the world. It hasn't always been easy.
Mhm.
But it's definitely been a very worthwhile experience. And I have some great memories and some great moments from doing it on my own.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that that business is like going well. Like I'm glad that it's a thriving business because even like seeing like you telling me about like the people in bikinis on the wall, like
Hmm.
it's like the epitome of like societal expectations
Yeah.
just everywhere that like
Yeah.
the gym is basically screaming at women that your goal is to lose weight.
Hmm.
That's kind of what I'm getting from that. It's not a
Yeah.
place where you can throw a holiday party and share joy and connect with each other.
Well, and it shows such a lack of understanding of women
Hmm.
and what makes us tick. And the trainer who put up those posters was like a young guy in his 20s. And I
Uh,
just kept thinking, I was like, what a disconnect there of the pressures that are put on us versus like the vision that we have for ourselves and what motivates us and what drives us forward, and even what women get out of going to the gym. I mean, yes, there were conversations about weight loss and people's desires to look a certain way when I worked at that gym, but so much more often than not, it was laughter and getting to know one another and having fun or sharing stories about our lives. So
yeah.
that's what kept people coming back. And I think the more that women are able to have conversations exactly like this that we're having right now, the more that we're able to talk about our desires and our experiences and what we want and what life, what's hard about life and what's easy about life, the more that all of us can feel more comfortable in our skin and more comfortable being ourselves.
Absolutely. That's the goal. We just want to feel good. Like
Yeah.
just with the body that we have. Like,
Yeah. And
I
write
mean,
our own rules so that we
mhm.
don't have to feel that pressure of having to fit into a certain clothing size or be of a certain weight or have our bodies look a certain way if that's not what feels best for us.
Definitely. Absolutely. My question left my brain again. Um, oh, okay, it's back. It came back.
Okay.
So on the website, one of the things that I noticed when I was like kind of exploring it a little bit is
Mhm.
that, and I know you said it on the website too, which is why I caught it, but none of your images are photoshopped, like
Yes.
whatsoever. And
Mhm.
first off,
Thank you. Thank
for
you.
those of you who are listening, like audio only, I'm clapping. Um, and I think that's a really big deal for, women and, just basically like, and even like maybe teenagers who may appear on your who may just so happen to be on your website looking for a place to like work out. Like, I think that like because of the amount of people on social media who do things like people who get a lot of work done
Mhm.
or people who Photoshop all their pictures and edit them in some way to make them look a certain way. That's a really big deal to it's a really big deal to, it's a big deal to society to, put, now my brain is disappearing from my head, but
Okay.
you're, but basically, I think that like definitely not photoshopping photos is such a great way to, like just promote your business too and bring in some amazing people in. So what was your inspiration? Like what what made what sort of gut in your head told you to not Photoshop the photos?
Yeah, great question. And it's been one of my business principles basically from the first
Mhm,
minute I opened. And it goes beyond just Photoshop, is that I also, especially on social media, I refuse to use filters.
mhm.
Unless they're like the really funny ones that turn
Yeah.
my face into a butterfly or something.
Right.
But I don't use any filters, and I think the biggest reason is understanding the psychology of what happens to us when we consume media with filters, and that's even if we intellectually understand that we're looking at a photo that's been altered, even if logically we know that we're looking at a social media account who uses filters on a regular
Mhm,
basis, even if we know that, by seeing those images and by watching those altered videos again and again and again, we our brains begin to normalize that that's how bodies and faces look. And a subconscious comparison, even when you're using a filter on yourself, can
mhm.
begin where the non-filtered or the unedited version feels less than. It feels imperfect. It feels like there's something wrong, inherently wrong with it. So one of my goals, since the whole ethos of my business is about helping women to feel good in their bodies, I wanted to always reflect back to them what I wanted them to see themselves in everything that I presented, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing any harm, that I wasn't further contributing to that comparison of like, I want people to know what my skin looks like with texture. I want people to know
Right.
what what my hair looks like with flyaways, and how my body looks on different days, and that I don't always look like I'm wearing makeup. I very often I'm not wearing makeup, like today.
I'm not
um
either.
and I want women to see that, so that they are reminded that no, this is normal.
Yeah.
This is what women's bodies look like, not the like super polished unedited filtered version, or sorry, the edited filtered version.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it also shows a lot of authenticity too.
Mhm.
Because oftentimes, like if you were to, and this just occurred to me when like I was looking through your page, is
Mhm.
that wow, everybody photoshops
Yeah.
photos,
Yeah, it's so
which is
common.
it's like everywhere you look, there's like a photoshopped photo
Mhm.
somewhere. I was literally on someone's, I was on an unnamed corporation's Instagram, and and like you could tell that they were like it was like a dance one. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna say the name, but like
Yeah.
you could tell that they were very clearly like editing the dancers to make them look a
Yeah.
certain way, even though
Mm-hmm.
they already looked gorgeous the way that they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the whole Photoshop thing is becoming like a what you would call it, synonymous? That might be the word. It might not be. Um, but like you said, how Photoshop is becoming the norm
Yeah.
in society. Even if
Mm-hmm.
you know that, if, even if you consciously know that it's the norm, it's kind of becoming more of a subconscious thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like, even if you like you said, like even if you know that something is photoshopped, that doesn't always like click right away.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
def
and
so
it takes work. I have a friend who we actually had this conversation. She posted um and like kudos to her for being transparent with it at least, but she posted not a before and after, but like
mhm,
a with filter, without filter. And she was like purposely trying to spark discussion of like let's have a conversation about it, but she did disclose that she very regularly, almost always, uses a specific filter when she's on socials. And ever since then, and we did have a conversation about it where I let her know, you know, just in a very kind way, you know, how harmful it can be both to your own self-esteem and to other people. And she said, you know, it makes her feel better. And I think that it's one of those slippery slopes where it can make us feel better in the short term,
mhm,
because in that moment it can hide flaws or our perceived flaws. It can make us look more polished, more put together, more, you know, stereotypically what we society tells us is beautiful or desirable. And yet it create, as you said, it creates that harm subconsciously in the long term. And it's just being very mindful, and it has to be a choice. It has to be something that, you know, of course there are times when I turn on my phone to record a video or make a post and I'm like, "Oh, okay. Not my best hair day, or maybe I look a little bit more
mhm.
tired than I thought I did, or the lighting isn't great." And I will do things like sometimes I'll adjust lighting and play with light. But other than that, I have to in those moments resist the urge, because I know that
Right.
it doesn't feel like a big deal, but it it as you said, it adds up when it becomes the norm over time.
Mhm.
And now I have to very intentionally remind myself when I'm looking at my friend's feed, because I do love her content. I have to consciously remind myself that, okay, she's using a filter, because I notice that that comparison comes
Yeah.
so quickly and so automatically.
It can happen like it can drop like pretty,
Hmm.
yeah, like
It
seeing
sneaks
people.
in there.
It
It's a
does.
sneaky,
Slippery slope.
sneaky, sneaky little snake. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I personally appreciate that like you're not doing that.
Oh,
And I
thank
will
you.
say that that's definitely happened to me too. Specifically when my phone is like if I'm like looking at it from like down here
Oh yes,
and I
that
just
downward selfie mode. Oh, especially when you're
that's
not expecting it. It's just like, ah,
right.
whoa.
That selfie mode's like a jump scare.
Yeah,
But
it can be.
but maybe if we didn't have Photoshop, that wouldn't happen as much.
Yeah. Well,
But
and I think I talk a lot about my clients about,
mhm,
we actually just did a workshop too with a friend of mine, about seeing yourself in photos, and how it's such a singular moment in time when our
mhm,
bodies are meant, like we always see ourselves moving, right? So when you all of a sudden see just a single moment in time, and so it doesn't capture your essence, and it doesn't
right.
necessarily, like your body isn't, or how you look isn't necessarily what makes a good photo. A good photo is like, even when, I'm sure when you think of like your favorite photos of dancers, it's those photos that something interesting is happening, or something unique is happening, or it's capturing a moment in time that represent has meaning to you, or something was happening at the time. So yeah, it's giving ourselves a lot of grace
Yeah,
that that our bodies are not necessarily the most important thing about us in that moment.
definitely. Yeah, so this definitely reminds me of like, so have you seen Dancing with the Stars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only saying this, I'm only mentioning the show because I love the show. And I was actually thinking about this earlier today that something I really like about Dancing with the Stars is that and you mentioned pictures too. You can see the sheer joy on those celebrities' faces when they dance.
Yeah.
Like sheer joy. Like they like wait, have you watched this past season?
No, I haven't.
Okay. But there was like this one dancer on the show who like big smiles. He was just happy to be there and just here to have a good time. And that was a pattern I noticed with a lot of the photos. Um, a lot of the photos too. And I think like what you said about beauty, like beauty comes from within. Like if you feel beautiful on the inside, then you'll just radiate from the outside.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's what beauty should be. And when people put on like a persona or if they put on like slabs of makeup or Photoshop their photo or edit their photos in any sort of way, it you can see right through that. Like
Yeah.
you can see like I don't know if you notice it too, but personally for me, I can like you can tell when somebody like has their photos. Like you can just tell. I don't know.
Yeah. It's hard, and I think for those people I have a lot of compassion for, because I
Mhm.
think that, when you feel that pressure, I can fully relate to feeling that pressure, and I think we're all on our own journey, and those people who, feel compelled to edit their photos or to filter or to get work done or what have you. I just hope that one day they're able to do some of this work of
Right.
healing their relationship with their body, and recognizing all the ways that they've been lied to by both society and diet culture and the beauty industry and the fitness industry,
Mhm.
that has told them that they're not enough just as they are. So yeah, it's
Right.
definitely, it's something that, yeah, brings I have a lot of compassion for those
Yeah.
people, that's for sure.
And I appreciate you bringing that up. Um, Especially because a lot of the altering of photos, also like you mentioned with your friend, it
Mhm.
comes from feeling insecure about like
Yeah,
their own
and wanting to
body.
feel better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I appreciate that you like brought in that compassion standpoint because I think at times, especially on the internet nowadays, people want to bash other people for doing basically anything instead
Hmm.
of thinking, oh, but why?
Hmm.
Why are you altering your photos?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and that's where so much body shaming comes from, right? It's
yeah.
often a mirror to the, if somebody is saying something that's body shaming someone else, oftentimes it's a mirror into the pressure that they feel
Mhm.
inside of themselves to look a certain way. And I always say full transparency. When I first started my fitness journey, I was definitely one of those eat this, not that, workout to change your body kind of coaches and instructors. And it was through a lot of self-reflection and honest conversations and difficult conversations that made me realize that, and through reading the science, that made me realize I was doing more harm than good, and taking, ownership and accountability for that, and figuring out a different way forward that just made more sense, and also was more in line with my values of what I wanted to do. So it's not easy to do this work. It's obviously like incredibly worthwhile, but
Mhm.
you also can't do it before you're ready. And like anything else, that we can't shame other people into not shaming other people, if that
Right.
makes sense. That's like a backwards loop. So the only way that we can see that change that we want, which is like less shame for everybody, is by holding that space and holding that compassion and having conversations like this where we can hopefully get people to see things a little bit differently.
Right. And like the conversation you had with your friend too about
Mm,
like,
yeah.
yeah, like, and it's nice to see people have that kind of compassion for each other.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and it's like, I'm not gonna fault my friend. It's just, having that uncomfortable conversation of letting her know, and also not making her feel like she's doing anything wrong, but
right.
just, bringing her into that conversation, and when she's ready and if she's ready and she wants to explore more, she knows that I'm a safe space, and she also knows that I'm still rooting for her.
Absolutely. 100%. All of that.
Yeah.
One, amazing. I appreciate you like holding yourself accountable for the like diet part, telling people what they should and shouldn't eat, because that was kind of healing for me to hear because
Mm.
I hope he didn't hear that.
No, I didn't hear that. I just saw you change. I assumed that something had happened.
Okay. Anyways, I I really appreciate you mentioning like holding yourself accountable for, talking about that diet standpoint. Because unfortunately, in the dance community, especially, and fitness too, that happens more often than not. And I was actually told at one point to like not eat something
Hmm.
because, but it's dairy. Like I love dairy. Like of course I'm eating. And out of spite, I did eat dairy that night. But anyways, but like I think it's important to emphasize to people, and I once again appreciate you, you know, holding yourself accountable and standing firmly against those beliefs now.
Hmm.
Um, that, just because you are in the center of a room, or should I say studio, just because you're in the center of a studio, you're there to teach, you're there to teach. Um, you know, Teachers are not certified dietitians. When
Mm.
I got my dance degree, I did not learn anything about nutrition or diet, and in my degree also did not come with a certification. So
Hmm.
me personally, I can't tell you what you can and can't eat.
Hmm.
Well, unless you want to have junk food, I can tell you if it feels good.
Well, and I think that that's um, a real red flag anytime that you're looking at any sort of professional. If they are making blanket universal statements of like
Mhm.
everyone should eat this, everyone shouldn't eat that, I always say that that's an immediate red flag to walk away
Yeah,
from, because it is so individualized. And unless, as you said, unless there's someone like, even as a fitness instructor myself, it's out of my scope of practice to create like individualized
yeah,
meal plans or make recommendations for supplements or diagnose anything. So I would never do that. Um, and yet there's a lot, especially on the internet, there's a lot of people providing advice or selling, more importantly, selling solutions uh, based on a lack of evidence and a lack of science and a lack of, as you said, qualifications and certifications. So one of the easiest red flags is to run walk not walk run away from anyone who's telling you that everybody should eat the same things and will get the same results.
absolutely. Yeah. That's like, whew. Yeah.
That's another one of those rage topics, is that, we
It's
could
def
eat the same thing, we could move in the exact same way, we could do all the exact same things, and still our bodies are always going to look different. So, and that's
right.
okay. That's beautiful actually.
Absolutely. Yeah. The world would be boring if we all looked the same and acted
Yeah.
the same and like it just had the same interests or whatever. Like
Mm.
it would definitely make for a boring world if we weren't all different.
Yeah. Could you imagine if we all danced the same too? Like
Oh
that
my gosh.
yeah, we would miss out on so much interesting difference.
Yeah, definitely. Like going off of that, like especially in the dance industry, like they talk about like artistry and like putting your like doing that and stuff. But oftentimes, especially in technical dance, there is sort of like a you all have to dance the same kind of vibe to it.
Hmm.
But you're also expected to have that same amount of passion. but not too much passion to like stand out if you're in ensemble or something.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, like you know what I'm saying.
Yep. Individuality. Yep.
Individuality, yes. Especially in the like thank you for mentioning that too. Like in the dance world, but also fitness, like we all naturally move in different ways.
Hmm.
Like, but also anatomically, our bodies are built different too.
Hmm.
So not every dancer is capable of doing the same thing as another dancer.
Hmm.
Like sometimes based on the way that your body is just built, you may end up with more natural flexibility than like the average person. There also might be some underlying issues, but I can't say. I'm not a professional. Um,
Yeah. And we talk a lot about, actually, this is going to go back to one of your original questions of
mhm,
how do I incorporate the values in what I teach? And one of the biggest things we teach is using modifications and props of
mhm.
like, it's okay to support your body in different ways, and that doesn't make it, an inferior kind of movement. And especially as we were talking about, like day to day, week to week, month to month, depending on where I am in my cycle, I'm going to want to
Right.
push harder or not. And we actually just had a class the other day, a yoga nidra class, which on the spectrum of yoga is like the most chill kind of yoga. And it was just like me and pillows and blankets. And I was like, oh, it was so restful and relaxing. And there's a place for that. You know what I mean? Like there's a place for movement that's more chill, and then there's a place for movement that's more intense. And for all of us, it's not just trying to do the most intense advanced thing all the time. That's not necessarily what's going to feel good in our bodies, and not necessarily be what our bodies are capable of, and that's okay.
Yep, absolutely. That's like the big thing in like um that's another thing that like I really want to like push more in dance is the fact, hey, not all bodies are capable of doing X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
I actually had a conversation with one of my like closest friends from college about this, and she was like, yeah, because like my instructor like pushed me into these positions that I physically cannot do. Like
Mhm.
I got injured and
Yeah.
like well, won't get into that lore. That's her episode. Um, but you know, like that's the thing is that a lot of teachers in dance, there's also a lack of knowledge on standard human anatomy too,
Mhm.
where sometimes you do push too hard. Like you can push someone out of their comfort zone. And I'm talking about in dance. Just
Yes. Yeah.
um there's like and then I mean for you it's about like self-discipline, something
Mhm.
like that,
Well,
kind of in like
I
a
think it's
positive.
actually there's a really interesting analogy that I use.
Hmm.
It's where we talk about working in versus working out. So working out is where you're using movement as a way to
Hmm.
improve performance, right? And that's exactly what you're talking about. Is that there is a place where if you're if you're trying to work towards goals or trying to master a new skill, yeah, absolutely, that requires you to push outside of your comfort zone, or try things that are hard, or
Hmm.
try things that are uncomfortable. And there is a place for that, and there is value in that. And at the same time, there's also value in working inwards, where movement is in that moment not about improving performance, but about helping you to work through your emotions, or to move through stress, or to discover something about yourself. And so holding space for both of those types of movement and the different values that each of them bring is really important. And there are some days, right, where it, you're not going to be able to improve performance. It's just like, it's just not
Yeah,
happening in that moment. And recognizing that not improving performance, if you're having that kind of day, it doesn't mean that the movement itself doesn't have value anymore.
right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, I
I'm
love
I'm
that one.
I'm gonna quote I'm gonna quote that when
Feel
we
free.
promote
Feel
the
free.
episode. When I promote the episode, I'll make sure that's like
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make sure
I'm
that's in
sure it's
there.
not my original idea, so I share it widely.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah, but dance is like we kind of have that expectation of if you can't do it, then you're a bad dancer. Like
Yeah.
that's what's expected. Meanwhile, like, there are many dancers with like chronic illness or autoimmune diseases, um, and even just your standard like, you know, human in a room who may not have any problems, but maybe they have tight hamstrings and they can't get themselves down into a full split. Um, that doesn't mean that the instructor should push you into a full split because, ow, injury, a
Yeah.
hamstring pull is a pretty bad one.
Yeah,
Um,
and there are ways, to modify, and I often use the word yet, is that you can't get to that full split yet, and there are ways that we can modify and help you build that skill to get to that point, and rather than forcing it or using
right,
shame as a motivator to get there.
right, definitely. Yeah. I need to check my questions. I really appreciate that, like, this is definitely like all these topics are so incredibly important. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah,
A good conversation.
yeah. Uh, um, we are hitting like relatively near the end of the episode. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to add?
I think I'd just love to offer your listeners that if you're struggling with confidence and dealing with some of these concepts of diet culture and stories around exercise and movement, I have a free 5-day confidence course that you can access at loyobofit.com/free5. And it's a great way to get started and continue this conversation.
Awesome, cool. I
Mhm.
will link that. I will link that in the show notes.
Sounds
So if
good.
you want to check that out, go check it out. The 5-star rating says it all. And
Oh,
our
thank
con
you. Thank
and
you.
and our conversation. I actually did go through the reviews too, and like you're
Oh, that's
definitely
really sweet.
I'm gonna summarize them for the people.
Oh,
Yeah, I did use a little AI but it's fine. Um, because I'm bad at summarizing things. Um, yeah. So it's a community that prioritizes body positivity, inclusivity, and mental health over traditional fitness goals. Um, you, it's pronounced Loyobo.
Loyobo. Yep, you got it.
Loyobo. Okay. Fosters a safe and welcoming environment where everyone feels valued and supported. Um, their focus on eradicating harmful fitness industry norms, such as fat shaming and promoting self-love, resonates deeply with members. While engaging social media advocacy, transparent leadership, and a holistic approach to wellness, Loyobo empowers individuals to heal the relationship with their bodies. Whether attending as a participant or teaching a workshop, the vibrant and uplifting atmosphere leaves a lasting and positive impression. And all of that came from the reviews.
Wow.
I
That's really nice. Thank you.
I went through them. I was like, ooh.
Aw.
Because I really want to emphasize to the people who listen to this. First off, you're virtual, so anybody like
Anybody, anywhere.
anybody anywhere can come and like, take your class and just have a good time and
Mhm.
all of that, blah 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 blah. Um, I was gonna get to a point, but I forgot what the point was. Um, um, yeah, I think that definitely, like you said with the red flag too, I also want to emphasize this at the end because I forgot my last point, so I'll find a new point. Um, like Courtney said, like if somebody is trying to tell you how you're supposed to eat, like if a dance teacher or fitness instructor tries to tell you, oh, eat this and this will happen. Even social media too, we know they're getting paid for it. Like that, if someone is telling you to take a diet supplement on social media, it's probably a sponsorship. And don't
Mhm.
buy from them. Go to a professional. Find a dietitian in your area. If that's something you're looking for, although
Yeah.
unless it's for health issues.
Mhm. Yeah.
Live your
Getting
life.
getting getting the right kind of support is very important.
Definitely, absolutely. So I know you did mention like your website
Mhm.
and stuff. But where um can you give us like a rundown on where we can find you?
The best place to find me is on Instagram. That's where I
Hmm.
am. I'm a typical millennial in that way.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, but you can also find me on TikTok and Facebook. And it's
Okay,
at
cool.
Loyobo Fit.
Cool. I will link all of those down in the show notes. But yeah, I just want to ask you again, is there
No, that's it.
anything
Thank you so
else?
much. This has been a great conversation.
Of course. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. This was really fun and like fulfilling.
Oh, thank you.
And
Yeah, thanks for having me.
of course, and I hope to my audience, my listening base, I hope that you feel healed. Like I hope you feel empowered to make your own choices with your body that make you feel good about yourself. Um,
Mm, snaps to that.
Thank you. All right, audience. So long and farewell. I will see you on the next one, or you will hear me if you're on audio. Um, Bye, everybody. Thank you for watching this episode of Dissecting Dance Kicking It with Ren podcast. If you can hear the wonderful background music, those are water bottles. This is your sign that you should relax and drink some water. Anyways, a new episode will be uploaded every other Thursday. Thank you for watching.